We are now recording. So thank you all for joining us. We have a quorum. I know we're waiting for Paul Gromer. This is the Valley Green Energy Working Group, our regular meeting, and we are joined today by Marlena Patton, and Paul Gromer will be joining us shortly as well from Mass Power Choice. Um, the first agenda item is to review the minutes, which I did not send. So we have so much to talk about today, though, that I think it's probably better, and we'll save that. We'll save that for the next meeting. So we'll have three sets of minutes to cover for the next meeting. So I apologize. But the next agenda item is public comment, and I do not believe we have any public in attendance. So going on to the next item would be starting out with updates from Mass Power Choice. And I know Paul isn't here. So Marlena, do you and Paul have any idea of how you wanted to discuss things, or should we go right to you and why we invited you to be here today and what we were
Well, I
thinking?
think Paul has his thoughts on how he would want to step through this. But
Okay,
if you feel you'd like to articulate your perspective for the purposes of putting everything out in the open, yeah, we could start with that. And then hopefully he'll join while you're talking.
sure, that'd be great.
By
So
the
uh,
way, sorry to
go ahead.
interrupt.
No
Uh,
worries, Adele.
um, Darcy responded to my text saying that she's in the attendees.
Oh,
So
she's
there she
She's
is.
she's
in now.
joining.
Okay,
She's in. Okay.
great.
Okay. Welcome, Darcy.
Hi.
Um, okay, so where we've left things at this point is because of the lack of investment in renewable energy development that currently exists. We were looking at our Valley Green Energy CCA and considering that we want to perhaps remove the option for additional RECs within the standard option and perhaps have all of those folks that are in standard basically get the basic rate. But I think what we discussed, and I think this is to Darcy's point, I believe at the last meeting, what we said was if there's a way to actually just change the standard rate so that it doesn't take people out of being in the standard option so that they get the basic rate. And we then educate everybody about what we're doing and why we're doing it. Because there is no real benefit to investing in the RECs at this point without, um, as it won't really be going towards renewable development. It'll be more going towards, at this point, if we don't decide, it'll end up going to some kind of a statewide effort to um, address the price point of electric rates right now and some of the incentives that have been given to folks, or I don't know if it's an incentive, it's more of a relief valve for folks. It was recently a $50 rebate, if you will, to the electricity utility customers in the state. And Paul's suggestion was that we may want to be more specific about either not having the rate at all, which would be the basic rate, which is what we'll offer our customers, or we were considering whether we would um, actually then take that rate and apply it more directly locally. But I think what we all came to was that right now, um, reducing the rate was really the best option for Valley Green Energy. So with that in my very cursory summary there, I will welcome Paul to the meeting. Thank you, Paul, for joining us. We were just sort of summarizing where we're at right now with what we're considering moving forward with having folks at the standard rate actually get the basic rate. So Marlena said that you have some very specific thoughts, so we thought we would start maybe with you and then um, work with Marlena on our outreach. So if you're prepared, I can hand things
Yes.
over to you.
That would be fine. What I'll do, actually, if I can just have a second, I realized I neglected to invite Marlena's and my colleague Kim to this meeting. I'm just going to send her the invite.
Okay,
Then
great.
we can charge ahead. Maybe she'll join, maybe not, but I
Okay.
didn't think of it till just the second. So,
Okay. Yeah, apologies because I could have sent her the link.
And just for the record, the Pelham Select Board, when I discussed this, and they certainly voted to authorize me to take whatever action we want to take here, um, there was pretty strong feeling that anything we could do that would minimize what individual people had to do, like, for example, going on the website and
Yeah.
taking down another plan or whatever we could do that would minimize or eliminate people having to do that was preferable. That clearly came across in our discussion. So anyway.
Excellent. Thanks for that. And we would certainly share that sentiment. So
A lot of phone calls.
we're in agreement with you there. Um, and forgive me for having been a second late. I was trying to organize some numbers to present to you in a clear way. Are you, and I'm right, you're thinking of changing the rec percentage for both 2025 and 2026 to maximize the savings. That's what you guys are thinking about. So there's that. And then just before I put the numbers up, there's another issue to consider, which is that with the war in Iran, there's a lot of
Yeah.
price pressure on electricity prices. And electricity prices are up now, particularly for this winter. They're up, the coming winter, they're up a lot. There's some risk that things will get even worse from here, so the current prices sort of price in some risk, but if there were a bad event, things could get much worse, or if things don't get better and we get closer to the winter, prices could well be higher then. So an issue to consider is whether as part of this or in parallel with what we're discussing here, you might want to think about locking in your next supply contract now. Ordinarily, you wouldn't have to do this for several months from now, but it would be an option to do it now. If you felt the best thing would be to sort of lock it in, and we got some rough prices for that just to give you a sense, so you can think about it. So if it works for you, let's see if I have the power to share my screen. I put together some numbers, and I'll apologize in advance. I didn't have a chance to put them in a slide, so they're just in an ugly PowerPoint at the moment, but um, must be
And
this.
Paul, while you're doing that, or maybe I shouldn't interfere with your thinking. There you go. Okay.
Yeah. So go ahead, Bob, if you want, and I can respond, or what's best.
At the last meeting, you had mentioned something about doing something retroactively because the suppliers haven't, gone to the rec market and they don't go till April. And there was also in line with that the possibility of asking about extending this contract, which would build in those savings going forward. And I don't know whether any of this reflects that or whether you were going to talk about that at all, but that was very intriguing to me.
Excellent. Yeah, so that's exactly what I have to go over now. So I've shared a spreadsheet here. Can you guys see the spreadsheet? And is
Yes,
it the
Yep.
correct size? Should I make it bigger?
looks good to me.
It's okay to me, but others might need it bigger.
Anybody can just expand
You
it on
can
their.
zoom your own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
All right.
zoom in.
People can zoom on their own. So what I've done here, and I've rounded these numbers off, both to
Hmm.
make it easier to look at and also because we got the numbers from First Point, but they did it super fast. So before locking in anything, we would give them a chance to refine.
Hmm.
But this is
Hmm.
generally the sense. So and I'm assuming here that what you want to do, what Bob suggested a moment ago, and we had talked about before, is not buy the 2025 Rex or the 2026 Rex in order to maximize the
Yeah.
savings. So what the spreadsheet shows here is across the first row is what those prices are today for the three products, standard, basic, and 100% green. The second row shows what those prices would be if you were to not buy the Rex for 2025 and 26 and then run those savings and realize all those savings through the rest of the current contract term. So basically from now or next month when we would start through November when the contract ends. You can see that when you do that, the price for the standard drops about a penny from the savings. Um, this was part of my rough math here. I moved the basic down to just match the standard. I think because I think you would want standard and basic to be the same because the rec content of those two would be the same at that point. And then for 100% green, I think, but tell me if I've misremembered, you were thinking of leaving that since people had chosen that. I guess it's a choice, but you could just leave that, but still give them the same saving. So drop, you'll remember that that price has two pieces. There's base electricity, and then there's the cost of the extra recs.
Right.
You drop the basic electricity price to the same as that is for the standard and basic, and then just add the rec cost on top. So if you do that, you get about a savings of a penny there. So through the end of the contract, you'd bring everybody down about a penny, and your price for standard and basic customers would be 13 cents a kilowatt hour through November. So that would be option one you could do. The next thing we could do is at the same time you did that, agreed into an extension of the current contract term. And the first number I show there is to extend it for 1 year. What you're doing there is you're taking those savings from the rec change and then spreading that out into the future in a reduction for what the price would be for a new term. And I gave it to you two ways. You could extend for a year or extend for 2 years. The numbers come out basically the same for those two options. The reason for that, that seems confusing at first, so why would that be? The reason is that in 1 year, the savings have a bigger impact because you're spreading them over fewer months, but the price for 1 year is higher. And then for 2 years, it's the other way. The price for 2 years is less, but the savings get spread out over more months. That's why they average to be about the same.
Okay.
And then for comparison, what I have down below is what would be the price to start a new contract on its own without any savings carryover for 1 year starting in November or 2 years starting in November? What we see there is the 1 year contract is even higher. That's over 16 cents. That's what it would be today. And that's reflecting the risk or the pressure on prices from the war in Iran. 2 years is lower because at least as of now, the market is showing a lot of risk for a big price jump this winter, but not so much for next winter or also the winter after that. So the real price bump would all be in that first year, but it's pretty significant. Um, that's a quick overview. Ben,
Yeah, I just want to ask a clarifying question. So drop prices and extend for 1 year. That 15 cents starts after November, or does that 15 cents start right away?
right away.
It starts right away. So what we would be doing is I'm just thinking politically, right? You're telling people, we're going to save you some money, we're going to raise your prices.
Exactly. It's a very difficult option, right? That number's not so attractive for just that
Yeah.
reason. Yes.
Now, obviously, it is the smart thing to do, but it's a lot harder to explain than we're going to stop doing something that's not helpful and we're going to stop buying additional recs. Your prices are going to go down. We will, on your behalf, try to negotiate some good prices. They're probably going to be up, but everybody else's will too. We're going to do our best to try to beat the market or beat base utility basic, which is easier to explain. So that's my first concern is that we're saying we're doing a good thing for you, but your immediate impact is that we're doing a bad thing for you. Or we're bringing closer into the present future, the future prices related to the war in Iran. Shows you how we're all old
Yeah.
enough and we've seen the repetition. Uh, but so that's a political risk. My inclination, of course, would be I don't want to lock in 2 years when we don't know how long this will last, what accommodations the electricity market in particular might do, like we did open up a transmission to Canada. Does that start to impact, does natural gas, compressed natural gas, but raise the price of electricity here? But do we maybe actually have a lower signal from natural gas in the future into the market? Like there's so much unknown. Um, so that's my main concern is the challenge of bringing future prices into the present and telling people we're doing you a favor.
Yep.
Bob
And,
has a question. Sorry, or
yeah,
go ahead,
I'll
Paul.
just quickly respond to Ben's point is everything you said, Ben, makes perfect sense to me. I just wanted here today to present the options and to show you
Yeah.
what the cost would be. So you could say of these things we could do, which seems to be the most appealing for us. And
Yeah.
100% the points you made would be important factors in that decision.
Bob, go ahead.
So you're showing all of this future stuff under the standard rate, and I just want to make sure that what we're talking about, the standard is really the basic rate composition, right? So we're not building in additional recs,
Correct.
but we're still calling it standard.
That's a separate question, what to
Okay.
call it, and there are factors in that and what you would call it that would be the clearest for customers. I probably maybe I should have used the word default rather than standard, but yes, the same environmental composition as the basic is now. That's what those numbers are meant to show.
And my second question, Paul, is if we were not to extend this contract, when would we be going out into the market to get a contract that would become effective, I guess, December 1st and beyond? When would we actually do that? Is it really next month?
Not next month, so you'd have a little time to do it and several months. And I'm just going to consult a different screen. I think you'll just continue to see the spreadsheet. Is that right? Even though I look around here at something
Yes.
else.
Yeah.
Depends how you shared.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so for you, you have until mid-August to
Oh,
lock in a new contract. So you need your new contract euro would begin in November. You need a few months cushion in there to
Yeah.
allow time to switch the customers to a new supplier if you choose a new supplier.
Okay.
You would want to do it, so you'd want to do it by then. And then usually I would think you might because want to wait. You either want to do it, like let's say this were a normal year. We would probably suggest that you do it, let me get you back here, sorry. We would probably suggest you do it either next month. So in the, April, May-ish is when prices tend to be lower. Or you might want to wait until after the new utility basic service prices are announced, which are a little later, late May for Eversource, mid to late June for National Grid. So you would certainly want to do it right around then.
Mhm.
This year, we'd have to see. I mean, I wanted to look at what it would be if you did it today, just ballpark, not exactly this, but this range of things. So that would be one option. We could see how it goes for a couple of months. We could wait until basic service, so then you would know what the basic services price is going to be. Basic service will definitely be reflecting these high market prices, unless things really change in Iraq. And and you could conceivably wait until August, but you might want to do it right around the time of basic service to stay close to that, buy in the same market as basic services.
So can I do a follow-up, Stephanie?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I mean, one of the things that we're gambling with here, frankly, is the impact and the duration
yep,
of this war.
yep.
And, with the pressure that's on the guy in charge, um, it may end, who knows, it may end sooner than later. And so let me ask this question this way. If the war in Iran were to end, let's say, 2 months from now, what would you think the impact that might have, if we then went out to market to look at pricing? I mean, I have to believe as a layperson in all of this that it probably would have a positive meaning for a lower potential rate than what we're seeing now, where all this risk for who knows how long this war is going to go on. So I guess I'm thinking that we have a game, we can gamble here if we want to just go with the drop the prices through the end of the contract option and then hang in there until June, the end of June, to go to market and hope that we gambled right in terms of the ending of the war and its impact on the electricity market. So I just wanted to get your take as to whether you thought ending the war, let's say in 2 months, how much of an impact it would have on the electricity market if we were going out to look at
Mhm.
prices.
Yeah, so I can, I can tell you what some of the factors would be for sure. I'll say like for any of us, so actually predicting is beyond, but I would imagine certainly if we have more certainty about the future and it seems that things are settled, that will take some of the risk out of the prices and prices will come down. I think the later that happens, the less it will bring the prices for this winter down because when we're fortunate now that it's March, there's not a bunch of demand for natural gas, but what does happen over the spring and summer is the gas storage gets filled up, it gets depleted in the winter and then filled up in the warmer months. So if we're stuck where we are for 2 months, it's going to be harder to get the storage filled up in time. And so then we'll either go into the winter with not enough storage or people will be paying a lot then to try to fill the storage fast. So I think I imagine there'll still be price pressure. But I also share the sentiment that if it's very uncertain now. If things get resolved in a couple, and that uncertainty pushes up the price. If things get resolved and it reduces the uncertainty, that should help bring the prices down. Um, and I'll just say two other things like what's in terms of what's the difference between aggregation programs and basic service? What are the advantages you have that basic service doesn't? And I say you have two. One is that you can choose when to go out to bid, and whereas basic service goes out in a schedule. So, that day in May, Eversource has to go out to bid, and that could be the worst day in the world. They still have to buy that day. So that's going to happen. Whereas you have some flexibility, and you could, I'm not recommending it necessarily, but you could gamble and say, we think it's going to be worse in May than it is now. So we're going to lock in now. So you have that flexibility, they don't. The other flexibility you have that they don't is that you have flexibility as to the term, whereas basic service, the price changes every 6 months, but it's a series of 1 year contracts. So they're going to go out to bid for a 1 year contract. As we can see on rows 10 and 11 there, the
Yeah.
price for a 2 year contract is less. And that's because right now the market is saying that 2 years from now, this is going to be much less of a problem than it is now. So you can, if you will, average out short-term high prices with longer-term low prices. You get a higher average price maybe, but maybe then too you protect customers against from the real extremes that you can get when you're having to buy 1 year at a time when the next year is really expensive. So you'll have that flexibility too. So even if we wait, you'll still have some term flexibility, which could help moderate prices, but you would have given up your timing flexibility.
Thanks, Paul. I actually have I had two questions. One I think you answered, which was if the war ended tomorrow, would there still be sort of a ripple effect on the supply and pricing over time? So even if things are more favorable, wouldn't that impact the prices for a while before they sort of reflect supply being sort of back to usual? So that I think you answered that. And then the other question was the pricing. You said it was a range, so I'm wondering, are these conservative numbers? Are these more optimistic numbers? Like are they on the lower end of the range or the higher end of the range?
So I used a conservative rounding on the numbers that we got today. So I think these are on the conservative side. I will say though that First Point ended up having to do these really fast, so they'll you'll double check everything before they come back to you with numbers you could decide on, that numbers you could say yes or no to. But I think this is a pretty good sense of the range.
Um, Go ahead, Ben.
So, yeah, so this whole problem of the new risks and a a very cold winter, like we're coming out of a cold winter, like all these things have, those of us who are responsible for procuring energy for our city. And I don't know if Stephanie, if that's part of what you do as well, but I've been kind of trying to figure out how to deal with this risk. So. Now the city has another year. Our contracts aren't up until 2027, in November 2027 in the case of the electricity contract. So we have a little more time, and the approach that I'm taking, and I'm just curious if it's something that VG can do as well, is I'm doing a index and hedge approach, which I imagine Paul you're familiar with, but probably everybody else is it's new. Which basically there's a portion of this supply cost which is kind of fixed by ISO New England. It's all these kind of fixed costs. And you buy that now, which seems to me like probably a good idea because that's likely to increase. And then you buy portions of the rest of your supply price, and you hope that by the time your new contract starts, you've actually filled all those portions, and the weighted average of what you purchased sets a fixed price that's lower than what you might have gotten otherwise. It's a risk, right? And it takes a lot of paying attention. And I have more time for the city than we have for the CCA. But is that an approach that we're even eligible to try? And or is it, and do you have an opinion on if it's a good a good idea?
Yeah. Um, so there, the arrangement you discussed is common for, not common, but I mean is used by, large customers sort of who can earn the ability both to take advantage of it and can accommodate the recognition that it means their price might change over time or might be variable or they're not, it's going to change over time. Aggregation programs haven't done anything like that. The closest thing that they've done is sometimes they'll make one component of the price a pass through. So that's not uncommon, not super common, but that's possible. Um, Usually a smaller component though than the electricity cost. The countervailing factor is that in many ways, the essence, one of the key features of this program for the residents is it's a locked price. We tell you what it is, and that's what it's going to be, and you can count on it. And it's not like basic service, that's a shorter term commitment, and it's going to go up and down. So I'd say that what you suggested may not, aspects of it could be brought through to aggregations. Generally speaking, that they haven't been, and it would be a different kind of contract than what the city's
Okay, yeah.
aggregation programs provide so
All
far.
right. All right. Um, and again, I have not been able to identify any municipalities that have done this. And the mayor has said, we think you should take the risk because I basically described all of the other risk that we're facing otherwise, and we have more time to put it together before it's done. But yeah, it involves risk. So that's the one thing. Um, if we were going to, I guess that the next question was, how much time do we have to pull the trigger if we agreed that the right answer was to drop prices and extend for 1 year?
Oh, oh, drop prices and extend. So,
So
uh,
to go for 15 cents right now, impose it on everybody and try to explain ourselves.
you you have as much time as you would want with the caveat that that 15 cents price is going to be different every single day
Right.
because it's going to reflect market electricity prices, which are always changing. So this exact, and this isn't even a deal, but once they give you an executable price, you'd have to decide then. You could decide no, but the price will be different tomorrow. I think Yeah, so, but you have time to think about it and consider it.
Is it possible for you, I guess it would be you, to put us on kind of a market watch where we get this information daily, every few, however frequently it's possible, and so that we can basically set ourselves a maximum and say, like, if it falls below such and such a price, we just do it.
It,
Um,
it's interesting. So I think so. We'd have to, I think it would work possibly with one supplier, like with First Point. This would, and if it's an extension, it would have to be with them.
yeah,
We
exactly.
could talk to them about it. I think we would just sort of thinking out loud and responding. I think we'd want to decide exactly what it was that we wanted, and then I imagine we could get them to update it for us. And we could talk through with them what they would be willing to do. It's not, doesn't seem impossible to me though.
Yeah. I'm done, at least for now. Bob, I don't know. Yeah,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Bob.
So, as we've been talking, I've been really trying to figure out what makes sense here, and there's no right answer, it seems. Um, but where I'm landing right now, and I'm willing to be talked out of it, is that the option to drop prices through the end of our contract is the one that I think I would lean towards right now. And my reasoning is a bit about what Ben talked about, the fact that, instead of dropping prices, we're raising prices on people starting relatively immediately. But also, I think that when we do go out to market for the supply, the general conditions that we're going to be operating in will be somewhat known to the people, the ratepayers, and they'll have seen what's happened to their basic rate with their utility, if they're aware that's reported in the news. And so it feels like, we would be operating within the a more known market situation where if it wound up being more expensive, which it likely will, um, then at least it's within the context of that's what's happening. But for us to do it now and raise the rate now because we think, and who knows. Anyway, I guess I'm willing to gamble a bit and go through the end of the contract with the reduced price, and wait to go out to market until, July or something like that, or August, and see where we land, with the war and pricing and so on. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. I think that's where I am right now, and I could be
Yeah.
talked out of it.
And I'm going to jump in before you, Ben. I am 100% with you, Bob. I actually feel the same way. I think to tell people that we're going to raise prices now is going to be really problematic. And even, I mean, we know why we're doing that, but the average person is probably not going to really want the big explanation because it's going to come down to the bottom line of what they're paying. So I agree, and I feel like it makes more sense because at that time, prices will be going up. So we're consistent with what's happening in general. Whereas if we do it now, it's not, and that feels, I just feel like that's the wrong approach. Ben, go ahead.
So I mean, obviously I agree with that perspective. I don't know how to explain to people that we're doing you a favor by raising your prices. Right. Um, but um, but we also know that, like, we are going to be facing this risk. I think you're probably right, Bob, that, like, for instance, we may think that people at the top are crazy and stupid because they are. But the military is good at smashing things, and the Strait of Hormuz will get opened sometime this year, and that means natural gas, compressed natural gas to Europe and China will get out into the market, which will reduce the pressure on our market to take our natural gas and compress it and send it somewhere else. So, like, that part of it, is almost certain by the time we're, in May or something, like, to have reduced. So, like, my question is, can we do kind of a both and? So can we drop prices through end of contract, but then possibly go back to first point and say, actually, we'd like to extend for a year. Again, if we're getting this daily or whatever it is, frequent uh, market, offer as the market changes and we kind of see it and we say, if we can start our new contract period from the perspective of the user, basically start the new higher price a little bit earlier, but maybe after the utilities have announced their new basic, something like that, and it's going to be higher, but we could actually, by spreading things out and locking things in, potentially get ourselves something lower than if we just go completely to the market and go and lock in for 2 years. Is that a possible thing?
Um, I think so, or I'll say it back a different way, Ben, to see if I'm understanding what you're
Yeah.
suggesting. So the way I would think about it is from dropping the Rex, you're going to save money, and that it's really just like a total dollar amount as far as first point is concerned.
Right.
Let's say it's, I don't know what it is, like $1 million or something.
Hmm.
You could start flowing that back to customers right away, or you could hold it and apply it to the new contract whenever you enter that new contract. So instead of dropping people's price now, you could accrue savings, which then you could put into apply towards the new price
That's
whenever you made that agreement. So that'd be one option. The only downside to that is it only works with first point. So you'd have to go with them, whereas otherwise you could just do a regular competitive procurement, get bids from lots of people, see who is the best. So that's one option. The other option, which would be available for a while, but maybe not for all that long, is you could hold for the moment and you could see if prices change to the point where that extension price comes down a little from the 15 and it gets down to where basically prices are now. So what you would then be doing is you would be using the savings and you'd be locking in the current price for another year or two. So similar to what I just said, but maybe a tiny bit different in the timing so that
Mhm.
you're you're not saying we're going to reduce your price and then increase your price, right? And then you're definitely not saying we're going to save you money and we're increasing your price today. Instead, we're going to say we're making this change and that allows us to continue you at your current price for a longer period of time.
So I'm just gonna, obviously, Stephanie, Bob, weigh in a minute. I would say that sounds like the most attractive possible thing. Essentially, no change, ignore us, don't think about us. That's great. And then if we're able to save that up and find that time, whenever it is, to basically lock in the same price for going forward, because we're definitely, like, I want to say I'm virtually certain we will not beat the current price next time around.
I'm struggling with this a bit.
Me too.
Um, so first of all, maybe I'm misunderstanding the money that's supposedly sitting there to purchase Rex. Okay, right now for 2025, I presume that's a fixed amount of dollars. It's already a known amount of dollars to first point, right? And so what we're talking about is saying, well, keep that in your savings account first point. And we're not going to have you build it into a reduced rate for people for the rest of the contract. Keep it in your savings account. Now, the 2026 monies are not going to be known until the end of 2026. In other words, how much will there be for that year? Um, so I guess that doesn't affect anything right now, except that we're going to move people from standard to basic, if I understand correctly what we're doing here. Anyway, we're going to do that, I think, right?
My understanding
Um,
is we're keeping them in standard, but they're going to get the basic rate. Is that
Okay,
correct?
that's fine, fine. Word it
But
that
it's,
way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But no,
Yeah.
no, I mean, it matters just in terms of like, we're not, because it's another layer of telling people what you're doing, switching the rate or
Mhm.
switching the category that they're in.
And to me, it's like six of one, half dozen of the other. If it's a
Yep.
fixed pot of money and we're going to give it to people between now and the end of November versus a fixed pot of money, and we're going to spread it out over 2 years or whatever the extension of a contract is. Um, it's like frankly, I'd rather go now. I'd rather do this. I'd rather take this. I'd rather gamble that we're going to go out to market. Yes, rates are going to be higher, perhaps, and they could be radically higher if this war continues beyond, beyond, beyond. But on the other hand, if it ends within the next 2, 3 months, it could have a leveling effect on the market. As you said, Paul, the uncertainty begins to drop out of it. So Ben, I don't know. I don't feel good about taking this pot of money that is known amount, like you were using just a general term, $1 million. We have no idea what it is, but we can either spread it out over the next few months for people and provide the relief there, or we can try to spread it out even further. And we don't know, it'll still be there, but we don't know what they'll wind up paying. Anyway,
Well, that would be the thing is we wouldn't, as I'm understanding what Paul's suggesting, we're not going too far into the future before we have to make a decision. But we're watching those prices, and if we got a price that locked in the current price by actually dropping the RECs. In other words, yes, you're right, we're taking that pot of money. But if we were to get a price that locks it in, then you're able to provide for people whose individual usage is going to vary all over the place. Here's a price that, again, you could say it's gambling, but I think at this stage, no matter what happens with the war, all the other stuff that's been happening is going to be raising the prices. It is going to be very, very, very hard to get a price that's even remotely close to where we are now.
I have a question too. If
Yeah.
Paul, you said, let's say that we go to the end of this contract, we apply, that pricing to the end of this contract, which means we still would have to sort of renegotiate for the next
Yeah.
term, right? So, but you're saying, so we could either take that gamble and do it now, you're saying, or we have until August, so we could wait a few months to sort of see how things go. So we're gambling really the timing of when we renegotiate a contract, correct? And if we go with, so if we wanted to extend with First Point, I guess I'm trying to sort of understand a little bit. Um, the money, so would extending with First Point be applying that $1 million, quote unquote, that we keep referring to? Let's just say that's where we would extend with First Point, or would we be potentially renegotiating a whole new contract, or can we just simply extend what we have? I guess that's what I'm trying to understand. We can't extend what we have or like not. That's where I'm lost a little bit.
So you would be extending the contract, but not the price. The price would always change if the term changed.
Yeah.
So it's a new price. So whether it may not matter that I use the term extend the contract, maybe it doesn't really matter whether it's a new contract, the old contract, it would be a new price.
Okay.
And I think maybe I could, I, I'll suggest back a course of action based on what I'm hearing, but not to say you should do this, but this is what I'm hearing folks saying. So if your choice is prices are today, we can make them 13 cents from now till November. That's one option. And then just go with the market wherever it is when we enter into the new contract. That's a choice. The other option in front of you today is go to 15 cents now for the next year using your savings. But that doesn't really seem very attractive for the reasons we've been discussing. We're going to save you money by raising your price. It's really a hard sell. But what if, and you might reject this, but what if you were to say, like, if this price had come in, the extension price not at 15, but at 14, That's what I was hoping for, but that didn't happen.
Mhm.
Then your choice would be A, drop prices now till November and then probably raise them in November, or lock them in at the same rate from now for another year and a half or 2 years. So if, and so I should ask you, Bob, if this price, the extension price were 14 right now, keep everybody's price just where it is, but extend it out for, a year, another year or so, would that be attractive to you or not? As compared to just dropping prices, compared to dropping prices right now?
Well, it's getting closer. And I think the one thing that we give up when we decide at this point in time that we're going to gamble with the extension issue is that we're no longer going to see what the competitive bids would look like.
Mhm.
So, on the one hand, we're saying, okay, this is the deal with First Point and we can extend, but if we went out to market, we would get a whole bunch of quotes that would come back to
Mhm.
us. And First Point might not be the lowest at that point. And so I guess I'm still kind of feeling like um, giving people relief in the short run is a good thing for Valley Green Energy to be doing. And we're trying to guess this market at this point in time when in fact we don't really have to be doing that until a few months from now, and a lot of things could change in the
Yeah,
conditions that are affecting prices.
but don't fool yourself into thinking that the war is the only factor.
Yeah,
The war
right.
is a kind of a sudden factor,
Yep.
but we have some underlying factors that Paul was talking about, like refilling the gas reserves, the general production level, expectation about renewables that are falling short, like that we're not getting new things online. All of that stuff is baked in. And again, because of this very cold winter, and I have to tell you, based on what, and again, NOAA is getting worse and worse, but based on their projection, a pretty hot summer. All of those things are going to drive the prices up. So it might be like if we go out to bid, First Point might not be the lowest one out of all the bidders, but all of them would probably be higher than what we have now. So if we had a way to lock in what we have now for a full other year, and then we go out to bid, and like I just think we're going to be in a much better position after all this turbulence and bad winter than right next
Okay,
time.
well that's convincing. I mean, I think Paul, what you were trying to ask was, well, if we really could lock it in with an extension, you know,
That's what I'm talking about.
essentially at the same rate, which is not where it's at now. Okay, that's not the number on the screen right now.
It's
Uh,
an if.
but if it were, essentially what it would mean is that we wouldn't have to be talking to ratepayers about increases, decreases, or whatever. We'd be locking in a rate that would probably look quite attractive compared to the rates that the utilities are going to come out with when they announce them in May and June.
Yeah.
But Paul, that's a hypothetical. I mean, right now you couldn't get that number from them, could you?
No, so that's a good point. So like what, and you're just right. What I was suggesting was, or what I wanted to ask was, do you want to wait a little bit and see whether that might be possible? Do you want to say, well, it means it's such an uncertain time. Let's give this just arbitrary. Let's give this a month. And if look at these numbers again in the month, and if the extension price remains unattractive, we lock in the short-term savings through November and then go out to bid again in the normal way. But if the extension price is more attractive in a month, maybe you want to think about that.
That sounds like a good plan. I
I
like
agree.
that. I like that.
That's what I'm favoring too.
Yeah, that sounds good. I was just going to ask if we went out to bid and got prices and didn't find any of them attractive, can we go out to bid again? Like, I guess that was the question I was going to ask. So that seems to me a more reasonable approach of like, let's just look at how things are going and, if things look really bad right now, maybe they'll be better or maybe not, but then we have the option to extend. So that's great. My other question was when we do go out to bid again, will we be going with just the two prices basically? I mean, technically we have three, but standard and basic are the same right now. So would we just be going for the 100% green and standard slash basic?
I think so. And I think the decision you would make at that time is whether you wanted to continue to offer the 100% green or not. And
Hmm.
we've probably discussed this, and I can't remember where you came out. Some communities are saying, well, we don't see the value in the voluntary recs right now, so we're not even going to offer a product with that. Other communities might say, well, this is a voluntary product. If some people want the product with the recs, it will continue to make available, and that's their choice. I think that's a sub issue. The main thing is the point you made, Stephanie, the basic and standard would be the same thing, same price. We'd figure out what to call it, but
Okay. Um, okay.
All right.
um,
I think what we're going to do is not make a decision today or make a decision today to wait for another month to make a decision.
Um,
Yeah.
could I modify that slightly? And again, only if this is actually possible, which would be really watch these prices, get as frequent an update from First Point as we can. And if a moment arrives when we can lock in the price that we want, we need to have an ad hoc quick meeting to agree, or maybe we vote now to say if if this trigger happens, go ahead. Paul, just go do it.
And we have to do that. We have to do that because it's going to change the next day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And we can't get this together. So I would say that if we're feeling comfortable that we want to extend at the same price for 1 or perhaps even 2 years, depending upon what they come back with,
Yeah,
then we could let's do it. Let's make the decision that says go ahead and buy
yeah.
at that point. So I think that's anyway. That's a good thought, Ben.
Yeah. Adele, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Um, what about the 100% people? Could we offer them a local option that would be clear that we would be saving their money in an account until there is a local option?
That seems difficult. We can discuss, but like until there's something you're actually offering them, like think about this offer. So we know you care about the environment. Give us some of your money to hold on to, and we'll see if we can do something with it someday. We're not sure what.
I can't see us
Well,
going
we wouldn't say it that way.
there.
But that is what we'd be saying, right?
Well, we might have a clearer idea of what we would invest in.
Um, Darcy, go ahead.
You're muted,
You're
Darcy.
muted.
I think that the expectation has been that we're offering both eventually the standard option people and the 100% people something. If it's not Rex, it's some other direct contribution to emissions reduction. And so I think this really requires a bigger conversation as to, you know, this is like a very quick reshaping of our CCA, and not what we initially intended as far as like, having the standard option uh, be automatically contributing something more than the RPS level of uh, emissions reduction. So Anyway, yeah, I guess I agree with Adele that this needs more conversation about like how we're going to use the funds to fund local solar development or renewables development.
Bob, go ahead.
So first, I just want to, I know that we know this, but I'll just say it anyway. Uh, the conditions under which we began are different than the conditions that exist today. We began with a rec situation, which we supported, and that's where we were going with this. And of course, that changed. So recognizing that conditions have changed, we're changing. And I don't believe that we should deviate from the intention to work towards the reduction of emissions. That's absolutely not what we should be doing. We should be going for that. But I think that trying to do it in a way where we're saying to people, pay us, pay us, pay us, and we'll figure something out, guys. We're trying to look at a local option, but we have no idea how long that will take. It doesn't feel good to me. And the more I read and about am dealing with in my own town, unrelated to electricity, although if you ask people about it, they would probably start complaining there too. But about every other aspect of affordability in our town,
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting creamed right now with people complaining about taxes and school and the price of everything. And so I just feel like we have to be somewhat responsive to that, in addition to continuing the dedication to our mission, which is twofold, really. Is one, to provide a, a product for our residents that has some degree of reliability and predictability, more so than they can get from the utilities. And secondly, to see what we can be doing that, to reduce emissions in the long term here. So I don't want to give up on that. Don't get me wrong, but conditions have changed, and I think we need to change with it. We're responding, unfortunately.
Ben, go ahead.
So I just want to literally echo everything Bob just said. 100, that is, conditions have changed, and our mission is twofold, right? It's supply people with a stable and hopefully low price, and satisfy our collective need to reduce emissions. We can do that since it's opt-in, right? So if you're going to 100%, you are making an active choice to say, I would like to pay money to reduce emissions somewhere. We can, without it being like part of the price of the CCA, we could say, if you're in VGE, we have your address, and we could communicate. This option is no longer available because conditions have changed. If it's still important to you, and then we'd have to do the work ahead of time to make it viable. One form of local energy savings is people who just can't quite pay for their portion of the weatherization service that they get through Mass Save, and a little bump would help them, right? And we could create a fund, and because at least in Northampton, we are directly connected to the home performance contractor who's got a contract to kind of concentrate on our city and East Hampton as well. Like that kind of a revolving fund could then be created completely independent of the structure of the CCA, but simply using it as a mailing list, basically. And the fact that that you have certain people who would like to pay some money for carbon savings somewhere.
So it's basically a program that you're saying that's separate from
Totally
the
separate
CCA.
program
Totally
that
separate program.
on us to start to create and to work out and all that stuff. And it's something that, though, cosmetically, though, you're offering it to people in the CCA as a place to put their extra money, because some people, I guess, have extra money and want to do something good with it. And this would be something we're saying it's available, it's local, right? Because it's only for people in VGE who are, say, trying to do weatherization and need, just a little bit extra to make it possible for them to do it. But it's a program. It would have to get run. It would have to get like, it's not something we can just do now, but it it doesn't put ourselves in a position of saying, like Bob and I both said, like, just give us some money, we'll hold on to it, and then someday we might do something with it if we can think of what. But so like that's cart before the horse. In the short term, why why offer people recs that they think are doing something good? Essentially, why lie to people and tell them to spend their money on something that's not going to do what they think it's going to do?
Adele.
I would like to hear first Paul Gromer's response to that suggestion.
The suggestion as to whether you could have a fund, collect it through the green product, and then say you would use it in the future. So
Right.
I think you could, if you were to choose to do that, I think you could offer a green product like that. And you just have to explain it, which you would do. And I think as far as the regulatory structure is concerned, you could do that.
Thank you. Um, Another option is to ask people to choose the next time that we're putting out a contract, standard, basic, or 100%. And my question is that okay? Is that allowable?
Do you mean instead of having a default? Is that what you're saying, Adele?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's an interesting idea. I think as a practical matter, though, you do need a default because even if you ask people and tell people they have to choose, there will be some percentage of them that don't, and we would have to put them somewhere. So there would, as a practical matter, need to be one default option.
Okay, but right now there is a default option, but they can choose either basic or 100%.
Correct.
And so my question is, would they be able to, in the future, select either one of those?
I think so. And I'll tell you what we were envisioning. But so what we were thinking, let's say, for example, you decided that with this contract coming up, you just wanted to have one product and not have any extra recs. At some point in the future, the rec market will change. Things will look more the way they were when the program started. And so you want to offer recs again. And you'll have to, let's say you'll want to go back to the exact same design you have now, three options, a middle one with some 100% and none. The way we would suggest to do that is you would take everybody who's on now, like in this middle period, they're all going to be on the defaults. Anybody and you make the default plus 20% in the future, let's say. You would just move the default people to the new defaults. They're still on the default. The new default is different now. It has 20% now instead of zero. And from there, they could choose, though, to go to one of the other options. So that would be basically how we would envision it, with the one caveat that we would know who had chosen basic the first time around. And so we would probably move those people to the new basic since they picked basic before, giving them the choice to change. And probably similar with the 100% people, you were on 100% before, so we're going to put you on the new 100% unless you tell us otherwise. But all the people in the middle would just go to the new defaults, which would change to suddenly to have Rex in the future when it wouldn't in this middle period.
I have a question about that because sorry, I'm assuming we know that because of who we have in First Point, but what happens if we go out to bid with a new provider? Will we still have that data of who's in what account?
We know, yeah, because it still
Okay,
stays with the
because you have
program.
it.
So all the
Okay,
historic data we would still have. So we have it as on your behalf, but you have it, and yes, we would still remember where
okay,
people were before.
okay. Thank you. Adele, go ahead.
So if we come up with a local option in the meantime, we can offer that as well as the Rex.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Bob, go ahead.
So I just wanted to clarify, no matter how we go into a new contract period, contract extension, a new contract with First Point, a new contract with somebody else, I was I was assuming that as a ratepayer, whatever choice that I'm currently enrolled in just continues, as opposed to somebody else looking at it and saying, no, no, you belong over here. I just misunderstood, Paul, what you were saying. It's like it seems to me that everything stays the same unless people choose something different when we go into our new contract, no matter who it's with.
So first, let me agree. That's the general approach that everything stays the same. Whatever choice you made before, that choice continues on to the future. What I was trying to describe was the situation where you went from three to one back to three.
Okay, okay, got it, got it.
And
Okay,
so
now I understand. Okay, thank you. So are we, I want to come back to a decision point here related to
Yes.
between now and November. Uh,
Mhm.
And if I understood correctly, we have decided essentially to authorize, if you will, Paul and his group to extend our contract with First Point for 1 or 2 years, depending upon what looks better. If basically what that means is things stay the same, meaning rates stay the same, and to be able to do that at when that happens. So if you're monitoring this every single day over the course of the next month until we meet again, you're monitoring every single day, and you say, "Whoa, there's the sweet spot, 14 cents." Um, Go pull the trigger, extend that contract for us, because we're going to be locking in something that is likely to people are going to see explode if we don't do it. So I want to make sure that's what we're agreeing to, at least for now.
and I think on that, unfortunately, I would have to add another step because even if you say you would like us to, we can't really extend the contract. It would have to happen through a contract amendment that the towns would sign. So you can direct me or direct us, the
Mhm.
Marlena Kim and me, to monitor it. If we see that situation, to get back to you immediately and see if we can put in place an opportunity for the decision maker in each town to sign the contract at the new price. So we would need to come back to you with it.
Okay.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
would have to have the town manager sign. He signs all our contracts.
Right. I would have to have the mayor sign, but that should be the same as the previous contract. So I
Right.
would, I mean, like from a mechanics point of view, if you were to hit that trigger and you say, okay, we have to go, like if there's a way to just like put that contract into, I don't know, it's DocuSign, I forget which system,
Yeah.
and just like put the alert out and say, okay, go sign and you can lock it in, and I'll alert the mayor. Yeah, this is, this could come at any time, and I will text you and make sure you know about it, whatever. Um, because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be how fast can we move?
And it will have to be that day,
Yes,
I'm
it has to be
assuming.
that day. And I
Yeah.
signed for Pelham, so pretty straightforward here.
And we can prepare, so Ben is correct, it's a contract, it's an amendment to the current contract. We can prepare the amendment, which would just be a couple of pages. It says the price as of this date changes from X to Y, the recs change. So we can prepare that in advance. And then I think the other thing we would need to do, just taking away from today, we'll need to talk to First Point about how frequently they can update the prices for us, so we know that. And then also, as we've been thinking, I've recalled that not buying the 2025 Rex, there's a date by which that would have to happen one way or the other. So we'll find out from them like
Yeah.
what's the last day to decide here. So this option that or this sort of possibility that I'm the one who's created for us can't last forever. So it'll be, like a month or so that
Yeah.
we could hang out for this.
So I'd say let's also agree so that you have that from us that like you define what that date is based on when the Rex can be sold. And if we have not successfully locked in a level price, then we go to plan A, which was always give everybody some savings now.
Yeah, through the end of the contract.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I feel good about where we've landed here.
Yeah.
Yep, agreed.
Good
And
work.
then to the end of the contract, but then we go out to bid.
Oh, of course.
Yes, we
Okay,
will
just,
go out to
well, I
bid
mean,
and
but we'd have to make that decision before August, obviously.
Yes.
So,
It's
okay,
literally whenever Paul finds out that the rec
yeah,
opportunity goes away.
right. Okay. All right. Um, that's great. Adele, go ahead.
Meanwhile, what are we offering the 100% people? Shall we informally tell them that they should reduce their options? I'm sorry, so that they choose the standard or the basic rate?
Same.
I think that's a great point, Adele, because we had talked about communicating with our customers and explaining what has happened in the rec market. And last time, I think we talked about a couple of different strategies for that. One was a press release, so that we could make it more generally known in the three communities through that means. But I also think that it makes sense for some kind of a direct communication to go out to all of our customers, a letter, whatever, that's explaining what's happened in the rec market, and that knowing this, if you've chosen 100%, you can decide to continue, or you can do this. We have to provide them with a couple of instructions. You can do this and change your option.
I would like to actually, if you don't mind, Bob, I'm just going to interrupt real quickly because I feel like Marlena is really kind of our sort of default on communications about the aggregation. So I would really like to hear from you, Marlena, as to what you think our strategies should be in terms of this format that we've now come up with.
Thanks. That's a good idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of complexity here. So I think the thing to keep in mind maybe is how many communications you're doing. So you're going to be obligated to do a communication, press release at a minimum when I say communication, when you either change renewable content or you change price or both. So you'll be doing an announcement of some kind if you do that contract extension, or if you do the price reduction followed by a new contract, you would be doing two announcements, kind of one back to back. And those may or may not also be accompanied by mailings. So just to make sure everybody understands how many communications might be going out, this would be an additional communication on top of those. If you want to do something like that in the immediate term and if you think that price is going to change for the 100% green participants, so let me back up. It doesn't sound like we're talking about changing the price for the 100% green participants with regard to if you decide to lower the price now and then sign a new contract starting in the fall. It sounds like it's only going to be a change for the standard participants. Is that right?
I think it might be actually a change for all of them. They all might come down
All
a
of
little.
them. Okay. All right. So so what you might be proposing is you're going to send out like a communication now saying do this, and then another communication saying price is changing, and then maybe another communication saying price is changing again. It just feels to me like a lot of instability.
Yeah.
You could, I suppose what you could do is if you really wanted to do targeted communications for the 100% green people, maybe it's not a press release. We should have their email addresses for most, not all, because they would have had to request it through the website, and our website form requires emails. Now, some people don't have email addresses, in which case they don't provide one. We have to put in a staff email address. But for those that have an email address, maybe one option, I don't know if the communities have email boxes, you could send out something from like an official communication in that way. That would be one option. Or you could do a mailing just to them rather than like a community-wide press release that's followed by another community-wide press release that's followed by another community-wide press release. I'm trying to get you guys away from having to do 3 press releases. I don't know if that's a way to avoid it, but that seems like a lot in like a 6-month period about a program that promised stability. So I'm trying to help you guys negotiate that. So if you want to communicate directly with those folks, I suppose an email is an option if you think people would open them, would see them and open them. I would recommend those would come from municipal accounts. Obviously not us, people don't know who we are.
So, sorry, just to jump in real quick, Marlena. So the municipalities would get the 100% green customers for their city or town,
Yeah,
and we would do the mailing directly ourselves.
I
And
think
you
it,
would, and could you provide us with the language of
yeah,
what we're conveying to
we can
folks?
certainly try and help you guys figure out what to say to them, sure.
Hmm.
I don't think something coming from our email address will inspire people to open it because they don't know who we are. Like, it's not a name they're expecting it. I mean, if I got it, I would put it into spam, right? Like, it just doesn't have any credibility. And I don't know if you guys have municipal email accounts that you send out from, or if this is even practical. I'm just trying to come up with some options on the fly here, but that is one option that we could give the email addresses that we do have to the municipal staff, and then from municipal email boxes, you could send out a communication about this, or we could give mailing addresses to, like, we could do a mailing to them. That would be the other option from the municipalities. And that would be very targeted. It wouldn't be like a press release about the program. It would be, you guys, it's a short list, you know. So I think those might be the two. Some direct communication might be the best option for the 100% green folks. And then that way, when it comes to talking about big announcements, you're only doing 1 or 2 of those, depending on how your contract works out.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like we should minimize the press releases in terms of what we decide with the contract. I feel like that does seem like a lot. Because if we're, as you say, if we're just press release on press release, the messaging gets lost. I mean, as it is, the only way to really get information to people is continually giving them the same information. And in this case, every time it comes out, it's something different, which I think is definitely problematic. And it seems like the mailing from the towns is okay, but I'm also looking at a large stack of mailings that I got back from our last outreach to the 100% green customers that all came back and didn't get delivered. But I feel like I guess we don't really have an option. And I'm assuming that if this is coming from us, um, I guess we just have to sort of deal with that internally. Each community has to deal with that internally. Um, I'm just saying this out loud for my own benefit to sort of understand where we are. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Darcy. You have a question.
Yeah, I just want a clarification. I came to the meeting assuming that we were still going to have the 3 options in the contract, but I'm hearing something different from Paul. I personally would really like to keep the 3 options, even though the standard is going to be the same price as basic. Just for purposes of continuity for the public and to sort of maintain the whole, intention to use it as, for emissions reductions at some point or whenever we can offer a project. So I guess I just want clarification of what is happening in that area.
Well,
Well, go ahead, Paul.
yeah, so I think we're talking about right for the next contract. I'll tell you what we were assuming, but it doesn't have to be this way. This is just what was in our what we would suggest, but you don't have to do this way. If basic and standard are the same price, it should be the same product because it would be the same in every way. Same price, same renewable content. So it would be difficult, I think, to offer those as 2 separate things. If you were to continue to offer a 100% green option, that would be a different thing. And I think we had some discussion about whether to do that or not, but I don't know if the group has decided about that. But if basic and standard are the same, I think it should just be one.
But say we wanted to offer um, a solar project, a local solar project. And we put that out there and the standard, the people that had signed up for standard would contribute X amount to that project. And the people who signed up for 100% would put in more for that project. And so that we would start collecting money for that project. So it would be direct contribution to local renewables, which would be similar to what Ben said about, a separate program for low income people. But it would be directly producing local solar. Um, I know it's all incredibly complex, but I just feel like the whole idea of green CCAs is to have this default option that contributes slightly more. And I understand that times are crazy right now and we don't have any money and, war in Iran. But I do think that it would be good to save this format, which is standard with green CCAs for the future or even for the near future to put forward some kind of proposal so that people can feel good about contributing to developing local renewables. And I may sound like a broken record here, but that's, I think it's better than I'm worried about going to one option because, you know, things just stay the same. If you change it to one thing, then it's really hard to get it back. Um, so same thing with getting rid of standard. If you get rid of standard and put everybody in basic, they'll never come back. So
Ben,
yes,
sorry, before we go to Ben, I'm just gonna jump in real quick. I think Darcy, the idea though was that if we go to one, then when the market is favorable again, we split the people out who were already on 100% green back into 100% green. So you don't lose those customers. It,
no, I
they'll go back
understand
into
that.
100% green.
I understand that we're saying that at this meeting. So let's engrave it in stone.
I would also
Okay,
add
well,
that
go ahead, Marlena.
from a public communications perspective, you're going to have you're going to have new customers coming into the program, right? They're going to receive a notice in the mail about program options. They'll go on the website and they'll see program options. And if they see one, two, or three options that all have the same price but different names, it would make the program nonsensical from that perspective. So I don't think if you have multiple options that are fundamentally the same and have the same price, it just makes a lot of sense from a communications perspective to keep all those different buckets. And we have quite a bit of experience with communities that had, let's say, two options. One was a basic and 100% green, and the basic was their default. And they decided down the road they wanted to add renewables into that basic. And some people were going to want it, some people were going to want something cheaper. So what they did is they took everybody that was on the default and they made them the new default, which has extra renewables, and then they added a basic option, and people who wanted the basic option go to the basic option. So these types of changes, it's all just to say that these types of changes are things that programs have done. And whatever you make as your default, you can continue to say, well, you're in the default, you get whatever the new default is. You would have to do a press release if you're going to add a little bit of money in that collect money through an option toward a program. You would have to make an announcement about it. You would have to tell people that it's happening. You would have to say your price is now changing to this for this reason, and these are your other options in the program. So all of that stuff would be communicated at the time it happens, and people would know what their options are, and you would be able to take a big chunk of people and put them into whatever that new default is. And programs do have a history of making those kinds of changes. Just to say that, like, that's not a thing that hasn't been done.
Ben, go ahead. We have 5 minutes left, so go ahead, Ben. You're muted. we can't hear you.
Can hear you, Ben.
Okay. Very quickly, I'm just gonna, we still can't hear you. I'm just gonna say something real quick, and if you just start talking, if you get your audio back. Um, I did want to say that I think the other case about just saying we're going to put money aside for investment in developing solar right now, it's just renewable isn't happening. There isn't a lot of investment in solar. And if to just sort of promise people this like at some point in time, which we've already kind of covered earlier in this discussion, just doesn't seem like a viable thing to offer to people. I wouldn't do it. And I feel, and I'm not just saying I'm the sort of litmus
Can
test here
you
for
hear me
that,
now?
but you know,
Can you hear me?
now we can hear you. So
Oh,
anyway, I
sorry.
just wanted to say that real quick. Go ahead, Ben.
Sorry about interrupting. I couldn't tell if I was. So, first of all, I want to agree with you. Telling people that you're offering something that is a fiction seems like not honest. It's like wish cycling when you just tell people you're gonna, hey, just throw all your plastics in this bin, they all get recycled, and actually they're not. It's like makes you feel good, and it's not real. So one, let's not do that. Two, let's not communicate anything until there's something important to communicate. So we've asked Paul's team to keep an eye on the prices and see if we can lock in our current prices over a longer period of time, which does involve the RECs, right? And so let's not communicate about anything until we've found that that option is not possible. Because once that option is possible, we can announce, hey, we have locked in prices for a longer period of time the and then we announced, and part of that was the fact that Rex don't have the impact that they used to have, and so we dropped that. I explained it all in one. Here's your new price for a year, no, another additional year, additional 2 years. You're welcome. Here's why. And in that communication, say if you are at 100% green, either we've said we're not offering that option anymore because it's not real, and like there's no reason to tell people make a choice on something that we have just told you is not real, right? So I would say just announce this thing's no longer offered because of this new negotiation. Again, at that moment when we lock that in. And if we get to that point when recs are no longer, when we have to make that decision, we couldn't lock in a price and we have to take our recs out and get the savings, to the end of the contract. Then we announced to everybody, hey, lucky we're reducing price because of the rec thing, and announce simultaneously, if you chose 100% green, you can keep that option to the end of the contract, at which point it will no longer be offered the next time around. But we highly recommend that you opt down because, again, they're not actually doing anything that you want. So one communication at the moment that it matters.
Well, and I would argue that we can't let that be too long in the future, and here's why. I think that it feels dishonest to me right now as a company, as a provider, where people are paying for something that we told them at the time, this is what it's doing. And then the world changed on us. We didn't change it, but the world changed on us, if you will, around us. And we haven't notified them. We haven't told them, oops, you thought you were doing this, but you're now doing this. So Ben, if we meet next month and we're not yet finally
Well,
not
yeah,
yet finally there, we have
that's
to make
fine. Thanks.
communication with our 100% people and tell them the truth about what it is they're paying for. Because I feel like otherwise we are being dishonest. That's all.
Yeah, and I agree.
Agreed.
It doesn't feel honest. So,
Paul, do you have a
Adele, well, can we just let Adele have a moment real quick? Sorry, just because we've got to wind down and I just want to give her a chance to
I
say
think
something. Go
this
ahead.
is a question for Marlena. Um, what about the DPU? Do we have to tell them that we're doing this sort of thing?
Tell them that you're making this kind of change.
Yes.
No, but the DPU places an obligation on the municipalities to tell the public about making changes in renewable content and price.
And that's why we need your assistance in our communications,
Thank you.
please, to make sure that we're saying what we need to say and what we're required to say. So, um, I'm going to wrap up because it's 2:30 and Ben, unless you had a really quick point to make, you have to unmute.
Ah,
Go
quick
ahead.
question for Paul. Do you know roughly what is the date at which the rec option decision has to be made?
In the next month or two, Kim, do you know?
I'm thinking the same. I mean, relatively soon, within a month or two, they would start buying them. Yeah, we
There you
could.
go. So it matches the constraint that Bub's saying we have to do, to be honest, to our 100% people. So
Mhm.
then goes back to just the one communication because we've got a decision point in a month or so.
Okay. So, so Paul, I guess how we're leaving it is that we are basically authorizing you to reach out to First Point to get the pricing on a daily basis or as much of frequently as you can. And if the pricing is the same as we have, to be able to lock that in, if you could get us that draft amendment so that I can share it with the town manager and Ben can share it with the mayor ahead of time so that they know what it is and we could get them to sign quickly, that would be enormously helpful. And then I think from that point, we would convene. We should just convene maybe immediately. If it's going to happen, we need to convene immediately after. Our next meeting is April 16th, but
Yep.
if it happens before then we need to meet and
Wait a minute.
we'll convene a
Why do
meeting.
we need to meet, Stephanie? We're going to sign it, docu-sign it. Everybody's going to do that. We can meet on April 16th.
Okay, well, I was just thinking about just the point of Marlena and communications, just sort of talking about that. Unless Marlena, you don't think that's necessary. I was just thinking we need to sort of get the communication together pretty quickly, but maybe not. I don't know. It
We
is
we
April
have two
16th,
we have two paths. We will
right?
know which path
Or
we've taken, and then we have to issue communications relative to whichever path we happen to have been able to get, whether it was
okay,
locking it in or taking the savings to the end of the term. Essentially we just have to know which one it is and then communicate on that.
okay, great. So, all right. So, and then so our next meeting is April 16th, but I would like Marlena if you could to attend and Paul, I don't know if you'll have any more to contribute at that point to this in terms of if we've made a decision. But if we haven't, we do need to talk about going out to bid and all that. So maybe if you could both, and Kim, always welcome, if
Yeah.
um, maybe all three of you could come to the next meeting on April 16th. I know it's been pretty regular for you, Paul. We really appreciate it. So
Well,
thank you.
we enjoy coming to your meeting, so.
What
Good.
time is
That's great.
that? What time will it be? Will it be 1 o'clock
It'll be
again?
1 o'clock. So it's April 16th is a Thursday and it will be at 1 p.m. We had to change this one because of me, actually. So,
And
um,
is it another 90-minute meeting?
yes, they're 90-minute meetings, an hour and a half. Yep. So, I mean, if we wrap up early, we wrap up early, but at a maximum, it should be 90 minutes. So, thank you all so much. This is really complicated and, sort of trying to find their best path forward. It's helpful to really talk this out. And I feel comfortable with where we're at with this decision. So thank you.
Very good. Great to
Thanks,
see you.
everyone.
Thank
This
you
is
for
really
Okay,
helpful.
everyone.
First,
All right. Take
bye.
care. Bye.
taking.